Okay, so where are we holding today? We are on Daf Kuf Tes Zayin Amud Beis. We're holding by the Mishnah. Matzilin Tika Sefer. So we continue learning here about the halachas. What happens if Chas v'Shalom a fire breaks out on Shabbos? What are you allowed to save from the fire? As we'll see in the Hemshech of the Perek, actually today we'll learn that Chazal made a takana, a gzeira, that you're not allowed to save just anything from the fire, because if you allow a person to do that, he's going to come to extinguish the flames. So Chazal are very particular about what you're allowed to save from the fire. So what we learned in the beginning of the Perek was that when it comes to saving a Sefer Torah, Kisvei HaKodesh, and we spoke about various different details about the Kisvei HaKodesh, that's allowed to be saved from the fire. Now the Mishnah is going to add more details about this halacha. Zok the Mishnah, Matzilin Tika Sefer Ima Sefer. A container where you keep a Sefer Torah or you keep the Kisvei HaKodesh could be saved together with the Sefer. Even though that container doesn't have the same Kedusha as the Sefer Torah itself, you could technically use it, if it wasn't designated for the Sefer Torah, you can use it for something else, for your own personal needs, but you're allowed to save the Tika Sefer together with the Sefer Torah. The Tika Tfilin, Ima Tfilin, and the container of the Tfilin you could save together with the Tfilin. Va'afal pisha yesh b'toichan mois, and this is even in a case where this container has the Tfilin inside, and it also happens to have money inside. But nevertheless, even though you're saving the container with the money, you don't have to shake out the money, as the Gemara will explain. You can save the Sefer Torah or the Tfilin together with the money that's inside this container. Another detail here, when you save the Sefer Torah, to where are you allowed to take it out? So we're not talking here about doing a malacha to take it out into the Rishus HaRabim, but, so what are we talking about? So there's a machlokes here. One of the Tanakama says, L'mavoi she'einu mefulish. You could take it out into a mavoi, which is closed. It's enclosed from three sides, and it's a place where minat Torah you're allowed to carry there, but midrabanan there's a gzeira not to carry there. We'll see, the Gemara will describe it more in detail. Ben Beseira says, Af l'mefulish. You're allowed to take out the Sefer Torah or the Kisvei HaKodesh to save from a fire, even if you're taking it out to a mavoi, to a street, which is mefulish. So according to the Maskan of the Gemara, means that it's open on both ends. It is. You can go through on both ends, and it's not a dead end. To the Rishus HaRabim. Yeah, to the Rishus HaRabim.
Two walls.
Has two walls on the sides, and it's open from both sides. We'll see. The Gemara is going to go through various different pshatim of this. We'll see. Tana Rabbanan. So the Gemara here is going to start with the first case of the Mishnah, where it spoke about saving the Sefer Torah together with the container, even together with money in it. But before the Gemara gets to the Mishnah, the Gemara brings a halacha benegeh to Korban Pesach that's brought on Shabbos, which is another case of a mitzvah that pushes off Shabbos. So there's a certain similarity here. Over here, we're sort of pushing off a takana midrabanan for saving the Sefer Torah and even saving the container with the Sefer Torah. And the Gemara is going to first bring a machlokes regarding Korban Pesach on Shabbos, and then the Gemara is going to bring back the connection to our Mishnah. It's very interesting how the Gemara connects this, as we'll see. So Tana Rabbana, we learned in a Braisa, Arba Asa Shachaliyas b'Shabbos. Pesach falls out on the Shabbos. So you're allowed to bring a Korban Pesach on Shabbos. It's Deicha Shabbos. But now the question is, when it comes to preparing certain parts of the Korban Pesach, what exactly are you allowed to do? Whatever is necessary for the actual Korban itself is allowed to be done on Shabbos. But whatever is not, whatever you're preparing in this Korban Pesach for your own personal needs, you're not allowed to do that. Only what's negeah for the Korban. So there's the Shechita, and now we're going to talk about what has to be done in order to take out the emurim, the parts of the animal, the fats and different parts of the animal that have to be brought on the Mizbeach. That's allowed to be done on Shabbos. But there's other things that are not allowed to be done on Shabbos. For example, whatever is necessary for the person to do in the Korban that he's going to need for by night, when he's going to have to eat the Korban, the achila of the Korban Pesach, that's going to be at night. Those things, to roast it and whatever other preparations, are not allowed to be done on Shabbos. So therefore the Braisa now here will discuss benegeh to skinning the animal of the Korban Pesach. So again, Pesach fell out on Shabbos, so the Tanakama says, Mafshitin es ha-Pesach, you are allowed to skin the behemoth, totally remove the skin of the animal, Mafshitin es kulai, completely. I'm sorry, I skipped the line. Mafshitin es ha-Pesach, you're allowed to skin the animal ad achaze, only up to the chaza, only up to the breast, which means you're only allowed to remove the skin of the animal from the legs up to the breast, enough to open up the space where you have to take out the parts that are going to be brought in the mizbeach. Past that part of the animal, it's not necessary to skin the animal completely, to remove the hide of the animal completely, because if you're removing it completely, you're basically removing it in order to get the basar, the meat that you need to prepare it to roast for tonight, and that you're not allowed to do. You're only allowed to remove it as much as is necessary to get out the parts that are going to be brought on the mizbeach. Divrei Rabbi Shmuel Benoi Shel Rabbi Yochanan ben Breika. Oh, this is actually the opinion of Rabbi Shmuel Benoi Shel Rabbi Yochanan ben Breika. Benoi Shel Rabbi Yochanan ben Breika. Yeah. The Chachamim argue and they say Mafshitin es kulai. You can completely remove the skin of the animal totally. Even after you got to the point where you could take out the parts for the carbon, you can totally remove it. This is the machlekes. So the Gemara explains the source of their machlekes, the reasoning behind their machlekes. So the reason why he says you shouldn't remove the skin all the way, it's understood. Whatever he has to get done for the purpose of bringing on the mizbeach, to remove the fats, the emurim, to be brought on the mizbeach, he can access it by removing the skin partially. So why should he be allowed to do any more? But according to the Rabbanan that say that you could remove the skin entirely, my time. Why? Why could you remove the skin entirely on Shabbos if it's not for the purpose of the carbon that you're bringing on the Mizbeach? Answers the Gemara, there's a pasuk that says, Kol po'al Hashem lemaneu. Everything Hashem creates is for His purpose. It's an interesting connection. The Gemara here is going to learn from this pasuk a concept that whatever you do has to be in a glorifying way for the Eibishter. And v'hacha, over here, even when it comes to the Karban Pesach, this could also be applied. How do we apply it here? Ma'ila maneu. How do we apply this concept over here, b'negei to taking off the skin of the behemoth? Ma'ila maneu ikke. What purpose is that you're doing for the Eibishter's sake? Rav Yosef Amar, so Rav Yosef says, you know what the Chachamim hold? That you are allowed to remove the skin entirely, shelo yasriach, because then that will cause that the meat, the basar that's under the skin will not be hot, will not be stuck under the skin, and it won't be fresh when you're going to come to eat it at night. It might develop a bad odor, and it's not going to be fresh meat that you can eat at night. If you remove the skin, so it's cooler, it's exposed to the air, it's not going to develop a bad smell. But you leave it under the skin for a couple of hours, then you're going to come to eat this basar at night. It's not going to have a good smell. So therefore, you do it in a way for the Eibishter's sake. You're going to be doing the mitzvah at night to eat the Karban Pesach. You want to remove the skin in order to be able to do the mitzvah properly. So the person is not really doing it for his own personal sake to access the meat. He's doing it for the Eibishter's sake, l'maneu, to have the basar fresh for the mitzvah. That's one pshat. Rava says another pshat. Why is it for the Eibishter's sake when you remove the skin entirely? Shalayu kache shemayim mutalim kinavela. Because here you have a carbon, which is kache shemayim. You don't want it sitting there like a nevela in such a not honorable way that you don't put the basar in a nice place, but it's sitting there on the hide of the animal is still partially on it, like a dead carcass. A nevela, it's not respectful for a carbon. Therefore, you're allowed to remove it. That even for those few hours, the kache shemayim should not sit there like a nevela. My benayu, what's the chiluk between these two opinions? Ike benayu, the nafkamina would be the monach apsoida de dava. If you take this nevela, which still has the skin partially on it, and you place it on a beautiful gold table, so it's not just lying on the ground in a disrespectful way, but it's actually prepared and put on a gold table, so then the fact that the skin is still on is not disrespectful. That's according to that opinion. Inami, or another chiluk would be Yaime de Istna, a day that there's a wind, there's a northern wind that comes and it cools off the animal. Even if the meat is there under the skin, it's not going to smell. It's going to stay fresh because there's a wind that keeps it fresh. So in such a case, it wouldn't be necessary to remove the skin. Okay, so this is the basis over here of the machlokes. It's this pasuk of Kol Po'al Hashem L'maneu. Whether you're allowed to do something on Shabbos for the animal, you're not doing it for your own sake. You're doing it really for the sake of the mitzvah, for the sake of Kadshe Shemayim. Rabbi Shmuel ben Rabbi Yechanan ben Beroike. Rabbi Shmuel, he didn't agree to this. Hi, Paul Hashem lemanei my Ovid lay. How does he apply this pasuk that we're bringing here of Paul Hashem lemanei, that you do something for the Eibishter's sake? Why does he not apply it the way the Chachamim do? So if he doesn't hold to this, so is there any way that he applies this pasuk? So the Gemara says yes. The way he applies that pasuk is differently, in a much more narrow sense. A person should not take out the emurin, the parts that are brought in the mizbeach, kaidim havshatas ha'ir, without removing the skin altogether. What a person can do is, bambus, you don't even have to remove the skin at all to get those parts for the mizbeach. You just make an incision, you take out those parts that are needed for the mizbeach, and you leave the entire skin on. So you don't have to do any of you don't have to be mafshit ha'ir whatsoever. So he's telling you that this pasuk says you are allowed to skin the animal to that extent to be able to take out the parts for the mizbeach. That is allowed. My timer, why is this better? Why is it nicer? Why is it for the Eibishter's sake to do it this way? Because otherwise, when you take out, you make an incision and you take out the parts that you need for the mizbeach, a lot of the hairs of the animal could be coming along because you make that incision. So there's hairs around, so hairs of the animal will come along with the carbon that you brought in the mizbeach, and that's not a beautiful carbon. Not what you bring on the mizbeach is with hairs, it's not beautiful. So therefore, he allowed you to completely remove that section of the hide of the animal to be able to access what you need for the mizbeach. That's the machlekes here, based on this pasuk. But the Gemara is now going to go a step further to explain this machlekes. Amar Rav Chisda, Amar Marukve, Mai ahadrule chavraya le Rabbi Shmuel ben Eish Rabbi Yechanan ben Beroike. What did the Chachamim respond to Rabbi Shmuel ben Eish Rabbi Yechanan ben Beroike when he said that you don't have to remove the entire skin in order to bring the carbon? See, even though the Gemara just brought a pasuk and the Gemara explained the opinion of the Chachamim, but the Gemara now is going to bring the source from our Mishnah. And here's the connection to what we spoke about, saving the Sefer Torah with the container from a fire. Hachi ka'amrilei. This is what the Chachamim said to Rabbi Shmuel. Im atzilin tika sefer ima sefer. If you're allowed to save the Sefer Torah from the fire, but you're not only the Sefer Torah itself, which is obviously Kisvei HaKodesh, it's holy, and you're doing it for the sake of the Eibishter. But along with that Sefer Torah, you could also save what? The Tikka Sefer, the container as well. Even though that container is something that you could use for yourself. But nevertheless, since what you're doing now, this tick serves as a purpose, it's right now the container of the Sefer Torah, you're allowed to save the container together with the Sefer Torah. So the same thing applies over here. Loi nafshit es a pesach me'oirei. Should you not be allowed to completely remove the hide of the animal? What is he saying? When you remove completely the hide of the animal, for whose purpose are you doing it? For the purpose of the mitzvah, for the purpose of the carbon, or are you doing it for your own personal sake? The answer is, it really has a dual benefit. When you remove the skin entirely on Shabbos, what does it accomplish? It makes the meat that you're going to eat that night of the carbon fresher. So it's something that you're doing for your own sake, technically. You're gaining from it. But at the same time, it's also for the Eibishter's sake. As we said before, in order that it should be a covet for the carbon, in order that the mitzvah should be done with fresh meat. So what you're doing is both for your own purpose, and it's also for the Eibishter's purpose. So that's the connection that we're making to our Mishnah. When you save the Sefer Torah together with the tik, although the tik is something, the container is something that you could be using for yourself, nevertheless, now that it's together with the Sefer Torah, you're allowed to save it. The same thing, removing the hide of the animal, the Chachamim said that although you benefit from it as well, nevertheless, it's also being done for the purpose of the mitzvah, so you're allowed to do that on Shabbos. That's the connection. That's what the Chachamim told Rabbi Shmuel. So the Gemara asks, is this a connection? Me dummy. How could you compare the case of our Mishnah to the case over there by the Korban Pesach? Hasam tiltul. In the case of our Mishnah, what are we dealing with? We're dealing with tiltul. Being allowed to move this out of the fire into the mavoi, where you're allowed to take it to. That's what we're dealing with. Which is a ism d'Rabbanan. The tiltul, muktzeh, or taking it out is definitely not more than a ism d'Rabbanan. Hacha malacha. By the Korban Pesach, to remove the hide of the animal, it's one of the lamet tes malachas, is mafshit, is to remove the skin of the animal. So over here we're talking about to be matir, mamish, one of the lamet tes malachas. So how could we bring an example from a isam midrabanan in our Mishnah to a malacha? And says the Gemara, Amar Rav Ashi, so Rav Ashi says, we'll have to say that really, betarti pligi. There, in the Braisa of the Korban Pesach, they argued about two different points. Pligi betiltel, the argument between the Chachamim and Rabbi Shmuel was also about whether you're allowed to move this animal together with the hide and the flesh. Are you allowed to move it b'chlal? Like over here, like in our Mishnah. Upligi b'malacha. And they also argued about the malacha of removing the skin. How much of the skin could you remove? And therefore, in the pshat of what we said before, the comparison to our Mishnah, it's referring to the tiltul alone. If you're allowed to move and take out of the fire the Sefer Torah together with the container, you should not be allowed to move this animal that had the hide on it and the basar together. You should not be allowed to move it together, even though there's the Isser of Muktzah. So just like in our Mishnah, we push away the Isser of Muktzah because you're doing it for the sake of the carbon, for the Eibishter's sake, the same should be applied over there. So the whole comparison to our Mishnah is not regarding the malacha of mafshit. That taka is not compared. But they were arguing also about this itself. Are you allowed to move it around? And lagabe that, we made a comparison to our Mishnah.
From the sun to the...
Yeah, as Rashi says, if you need to move it to a place in order for it not to be in... Yeah, exactly. Okay, he's doing it to the Shem Shemayim, that it should not get ruined in the sun. So the Gemara... We're not talking about L'Rishus because then it's Mamash and Malachim and Atayra. We're talking about either Muktzeh or taking it out to another Rishus without an Eruv Chatzeres, something like that, where there's an Ism D'Rabbanan. That's the tiltul here.
Just in a general any regular case of meat with fire.
It's Muktzeh.
Well, you can't
over here, in this case, the Gemara is going to explain now. Huh?
You can't cook on Shabbos.
Oh, well, let's see right now. The Gemara is going to explain. Frek the Gemara, even if we're saying that here by the Korban Pesach, we're talking about moving it. And here by the Sefer Torah and the fire, we're also talking about moving it. So l'chayr, it's a similar case, but midami. Could you compare them? Hasam, over there, Nasa, we're talking here about the Sefer Torah, Nasa basis l'dover amutter. The container that has a Sefer Torah inside is a base. It's a container for a Sefer Torah. A Sefer Torah is a dover amutter. So therefore, once it's a basis for a dover amutter, it should be allowed, it makes sense that the Chazal should allow you to move this for the purpose of a fire. The Sefer Torah itself is something which is completely mutter to move. But hacha, by the case of the Korban Pesach, nasa basis l'dover asa. The hide of the animal, which contains the meat inside, is considered to be a base. It contains inside the meat, which on Shabbos is muktzah. Why is it muktzah on Shabbos? Because, as Rashi says, you're not allowed to eat this. It's not fit for eating until at night when you eat the Korban Pesach. You're not allowed to eat it by day. You have to eat it at night.
Isn't tefillin muktzah?
Not necessarily. It's a good question. Because the Mishnah says both Sefer Torah and tefillin. It's a good question. It's discussed. It depends on the opinion if you could put tefillin on Shabbos. If not, l'chayra, you're right. Then it's a shtickle shayla. Tefillin should be muktzah. Okay, it's a good question. So, but over there, by the Korban Pesach, the meat that can't be eaten until at night, so it's not fit b'chlal for Shabbos, is definitely, it's a basis for a davar aser. So it should be much more stringent than here, the case of the Sefer Torah and the container in it. Elo, zok the Gemara, hachi kamri lei. So the raya that the Chachamim brought from our Mishnah was from the case where there was also money inside. Imatzil and tikshal sefer, ima sefer. If you could save the container that has a Sefer Torah inside, although it has money inside, so now the money, it becomes a basis, it's a base for a davar aser, it has the money inside. So agav basa, you should not be allowed to move the hide of the animal together with the basa that's inside. So here the comparison is for a case where it becomes a container for something which is muktzah, for a davar aser, for the money. But the Gemara asks on this as well, mi dami, how could you compare it? It's still not the same. Hasam, in the case of the animal, the Korban Pesach, Nase, or actually, I'm sorry, again, Hasam goes to our Mishnah. Hasam in our Mishnah, when you have the Sefer Torah and the money inside the container, Nase, Basis, L'davar Aser, U'Ledavar Amuter. It's a container, it's a base for the Sefer Torah, which is permitted, and for the money, which is forbidden. So when something is a basis for both, you're allowed to move it. But hacha kulay nase basis l'davar asor. Over here, this Sefer Torah is being a basis, it's a base for a davar asor, for the animal which you can't eat today, which is totally asor. So it's still more stringent than our Mishnah. Ella, the Gemara says, hachi kamri lei. The comparison to our Mishnah according to the Chachamim was as follows. And this is something that does not say clearly in our Mishnah, but the Chachamim understood this from our Mishnah. If you're allowed to bring a container, and this container has money in it, Me'almer, you're bringing it from another room in the house. Now you want to use this tick, you want to use this container to save the Sefer Torah in it. So you're running and you bring a tick that has money in it in order to put the Sefer Torah inside. That's allowed. So even though you're carrying now the tick that has money inside and the Sefer Torah is not inside it yet, and that's allowed. That's what he understands from the Mishnah. Should you not be allowed to move the animal of the Korban Pesach that has the basar inside? So here, it's a case where there's only money inside, right? So the Chachamim understood, if it says in the Mishnah, the way Taisus explains it, if it says in the Mishnah that you're allowed to take a tick that has money inside, then you don't have to shake out the money. You could leave the money inside, and you could put the Sefer, and the Sefer Torah is in there as well, and you can take it out together. So if you don't have to shake out the money in that case, so if you find a tick that has only money inside, and you want to use it for the Sefer Torah, you don't have to shake the money out. You could take the container with the money and bring it and put the Sefer Torah inside and take it out. So you see that you're allowed to move this container with the money inside before there's any Sefer Torah inside. So the Gemara says, no, it's still not a good comparison. Where are we holding here? Vihi frekte Gemara vihi gufa min alan. But this itself, from where do you know that this is allowed? It didn't say clearly in the Mishnah that you can take this container that had money inside without the Sefer Torah. So if you're going to say the reason is in a case where you had the container with the Sefer Torah, with the money, you're not obligated to shake out the money before you take it out. So therefore from this I see that you could use a tick, you could use a container that has money inside to put a Sefer Torah inside as well. Midami, how could you compare the two? Hasam, in the case where you have a Sefer Torah and money inside, you know why Chachamim didn't require you to shake the money out? By the time you managed to shake the money out, nafla deleka, the fire could come and could burn the Sefer Torah. They allowed you to take the Sefer Torah out immediately without having to pour out the money of the of the container. But hacha, over here, when you're saying that a person's going to grab a tick from another room and he's running and he's coming with this tick that has money inside, meanwhile, as he's coming with this container that has the money inside, lishdinon, let him shake out the money before he puts the Sefer Torah inside. If he's bringing this tick on his way, walking, let him shake out the money. Why not? He's not delaying saving the Sefer Torah. So therefore, we don't b'chlal see that this is allowed in our Mishnah. So now the Gemara goes back on everything it just said, and it goes back to the original pshat that we began with. What was the original pshat we began with? What are Chachamim and Rabbi Shmuel arguing about? They're not arguing about moving the Korban Pesach from the sun to the shade. They're arguing about removing the skin. How much of the skin could you remove? And that's the comparison to our Mishnah. The Gemara's question was that in our Mishnah, it's only tiltul. And over there it's a malacha. It's a malacha of mafshit. So how can you compare the two? So the Gemara now will give a different answer to that question. We're going back to the pshat that we said before. The question you had, hacha, tiltul. In our Mishnah, it's just moving it. It's tiltul. It's only ism de rabbanon. The hacha malacha. And over there by the Korban Pesach, you're doing a malacha, you're removing the skin, which is mamash a malacha. The answer is no. Over there it's also not a malacha. He's removing this skin, but he does not need it. The malacha of mafshit is that you're going to use the skin, you're making the skin available to be used for something, but over here, why is he removing the skin? He just wants to access the pieces for the Korban Pesach. He wants to access the meat for the Korban Pesach. He doesn't need the skin itself. So therefore, it's not, the Minat Torah is not being over on the malacha of mafshit because he's not using the skin at all. But for Abaye, the Gemara quotes again this concept that it brings up all the time in the Gemara. For Abaye v'Rava damri tavayu, but Abaye and Rava both say meider Rab Shimon b'psik reisha v'lo yamus. So even though when he removes the skin, he's not having any kavana to use the skin whatsoever, which is eina mechaven, and therefore minat Torah, it's not the malacha, but nevertheless it's psik reisha. He removes the skin and he has the skin available for himself to use. So this is called psikreisha. So why should it's inevitable? So why shouldn't this be asam and atayra? And for the Gemara, what we're talking about over here is the way he removes the skin of the Korban Pesach is the shakal lebebarzi. He removes it in thin strips. He doesn't remove the skin in the regular way. He removes it with a shinui, with thin strips, and therefore it's not usable really in that way. So therefore he's not over on the malacha dairaisa. It's only a isma d'Rabbanan, and therefore it could be compared to our Mishnah where we were discussing taking out the Sefer Torah, which is also only a isma d'Rabbanan. That's the maskan of the Gemara. Some of the Rishonim say that even though the Gemara brings up the inyan of psikreisha and it's mashma from the Gemara that we're talking about the issue of Eina Mechaven, but it's not really a concept of Eina Mechaven. The Meiri says that really this is a malacha she'eina tzricha legufa. You're doing the malacha, you're intending to do this very malacha, elamai, you're not doing it for the purpose of the malacha, you don't need the skin itself, you just need to remove the emurim, and this is really called the malacha she'eina tzricha legufa. It's a machlekes rishonim.
But then what's the shaykh's psikreisha?
Right, it's a good question. Right, so the Meiri holds that the concept of psikreisha is shaykh to malacha she'eina tzricha legufa also. It's a big chiddush. It's a big question. It's a big problem. Rabbi Kiveger over here says in this Gemara, tzarachi and gadol. And the Achrayim discussed this. It's not so pashut over here. This is a very unique application of psikreisha. You're mamish removing the hide of the animal. You're not, usually, eina mechaven is where you do one thing and it brings a different result. For example, you drag a bench and inevitably or unintentionally it makes a hole in the ground, which is not what you were doing at all. You were just dragging a bench. Over here, you're mamish removing the skin. You're doing the very malacha. So therefore, according to many, this is all really just called the malacha she'eina tzricha legufa. Okay, let's go on to the next chelik of the Mishnah. What did it say? So when you save the Sefer Torah, you're bringing it outside. Where are you allowed to bring it out to? So there was a machlekes, right? Laheicham atzila noisan. So the Tanna Kama said you bring it to a mavoi that's closed. Eina mefulish, and the Ben Beseida said you're allowed to bring it out even to a mavi mefulish. So the Gemara is going to define in this context what is called a mavi mefulish and what's called a mavi she'eina mefulish. Heichi dami mefulish and heichi dami she'eina mefulish. Amar Rav Chisda says Rav Chisda as follows: Shalish mechitzais, if it has 3 enclosures from 3 sides, and then on the 4th side which is open, ushnei lechyon, and you have 2 side posts, not 1 but 2. When you have 2 side posts on the 4th side, that zeo mavi she'eina mefulish. That's a mavi that's enclosed. Gimel mechitzis, if it's closed from 3 sides, a dead end, closed from 3 sides, but v'lechi echad, and on the 4th side it only has 1 side post, zeh mavi amafulish. That's still considered to be an open mavi. V'tarvayu, both opinions in the Mishnah, the Tanna Kama and Ben Beseida, alibe de Rabbi Eliezer. When they were speaking about these types of mavis here, the mavi mafulish and mavi she'eina mefulish, they were speaking about the way Rabbi Eliezer defined it. And the Gemara brings a Mishnah where there's a 3-way machlokes how to define a mavi mefulish and eina mefulish. The Tnam we learned in the Mishnah, hechsher mavi. In order to prepare a mavi that you should be allowed to carry in it has to be closed off. So how do you prepare it? Beishamai Yomrim, Beishamai say, lechi v'kaira. You have to have at the 4th opening a lechi, which is the side beam, and a kaira, which is a cross beam on the top. You have to have both. Beis Hillel Yomrim, Beis Hillel say one or the other. Oy lechi, oy kaira. Either a side beam or the cross beam. Rabbi Eliezer says what's required to close it off is shnei lechyam. You have to have 2 lechis, 2 side beams on both sides of the entrance in the 4th opening. You have to have 2 lechis, and that's what our Mishnah was talking about. If you have 2 lechis, that's what's called a mavi she'eina mefulish. If it's only 1 lechi, that's called a mavi mefulish, and that was the kula of Ben Beseida, that even though it has only 1 lechi, you could carry out the Sefer Torah there. This is the pshat of who Rav Chisda said this pshat. Amalei Rabbe, so Rabbe responded to this pshat. Gimel mechitzis. When you have enclosed from 3 sides, the lechi echad, and it has 1 lechi on the 4th side, mefulish kareslei. This is called a mavoi that's open. It's not open. It's closed from all 3 sides. It's a dead end, and even on the 4th side, it has 1 lechi. How could you call that mefulish, that it's open? Another question, li Rabbanon, according to the Tanna Kama of the Mishnah that says that it's a case that has 2 lechis, natzil esaychai eichlin umashkin. You should be allowed to bring into this place also Eichlin and Mashkin. Why is the Mishnah talking over here about the special heter of a Sefer Torah? That a Sefer Torah, there's a special heter that you're allowed to bring the Sefer Torah into this Mavui as well. Right? Which is mashma that food is not allowed. Food, as we'll see in the Gemara soon, you can bring it only out into a chutzir, into a courtyard. But if we're talking about a mavui that's enclosed from all three sides and it has a lechi on two sides, in the fourth opening you should be allowed to bring anything in there, even Eichlin and Mashkin. Why only a Sefer Torah? Hello, Rabbe. So Rabbe says the pshat is different. What's called a mavi mefulish? Shtei mechitzis. So the Gemara starts with ein mefulish. Shtei mechitzis is shnei lechyan. If it only has two mechitzis, has houses on two sides, and the street is open on both ends, so then v'lechi echad. Where am I? Shnei lechyan, and it has two lechis, meaning it has a lechi on one side and a lechi on the other side. They're both openings on both ends. So it has a lechi on each side. Zel mavishay enim afulish. That's called enim afulish because it has a lechi on each end. Shtei mechitzis, if you have two mechitzis on both sides, the lechi echad, and you only have a lechi on one side, one opening, zel mavi amafulish. That's what's called a mavi mefulish because it does not have a lechi on both sides. So over here, when we're not talking about a dead end, we're talking about a street that's open on both ends, and it only has one lechi on one side, that's called a mavi mefulish that the Mishnah was talking about. And so therefore the Mishnah was being mekel legabe the Sefer Torah. Now Rabbi explains, v'tarvayu, both opinions of the Mishnah, the Tanakama and Ben Beseira, alibe de Rabbi Yehuda. They were following the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda that we mentioned a long time ago in the first Perek. The Tanya, it's in a brayso that says, Yesod al kein Omer Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda said as follows: Mi sheyesh lo shnei batim b'shnei tzidei reshus harabim. You have reshus harabim and the houses on both sides. So you have sort of walls on both sides of the reshus harabim. Oise lechi mikan v'lechi mikan. You can make a lechi on one side and a lechi on the other side. Oy kaira mikan, or a cross beam on one side and the other side. V'noisa v'noisa b'emtza. And you can carry inside that space. It's like a reshus hayachid.
What's the concept of lechi? It's a heker?
Yes.
Meaning?
Yes, like a native. A heker that it's not, in this case over here actually, according to Rabbi Yehuda, it turns it into a regular Reshus HaYachid. Rabbi Yehuda is very makel. He says you can take a place which is really a Reshus HaRabim. Actually, Rabbi Yehuda holds it even just with two mechitzas. Minat Teira, it's already not a Reshus HaRabim anymore. And therefore, Minat Teira, it's not a Reshus HaRabim, but it looks like a Reshus HaRabim, so you have to make a heker that you should be allowed to carry there. So, Neisim v'Neisim be'emtza. So, according to Rabbi Yehuda, you have two houses on both sides, so it's walls on both sides. According to Rabbi Yehuda, it's not a Reshus HaRabim anymore. Just with two walls, it's not a Reshus HaRabim anymore. So now you put up a lechi on one side, you put up a lechi on the other side, on both entrances. So this is considered to be an enclosure.
It's like streets incarnate. All the houses.
Yeah, basically. So you have those three houses on both sides. You put that enclosure. It's not a Reshus HaRabim anymore. Amrullah. The Tanakam, the Chachamim, they argue with Rabbi Yehuda and say, no, this is considered to be a Reshus HaRabim. A Reshus HaRabim, you can't make an Eidav this way. You can't put a Lechi to make an Eidav in a Reshus HaRabim. So our Mishnah, Rabbi is saying, is following Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. Now, the way Rabbi learned this is that our Mishnah was being makel to follow Rabbi Yehuda legabe a Sefer Torah. Even though usually we don't follow Rabbi Yehuda's opinion, but legabe the Sefer Torah we're being makel. Amalei Abaye, so Abaye responded and said to Rabbi, Lidi doch nami, even according to your pshat, l'Rabbanon natzel l'seicha eichlin amashkin. According to the Rabbanon that say that there's a lechi on both sides, if we're following Rabbi Yehuda's opinion, if we're being makel for the Sefer Torah, you should be allowed also to bring even eichlin amashkin in it. So Abaye didn't hold that this is... The Rabbana means the Tanakama of our Mishnah, yeah. The Tanakama of our Mishnah that says that it's Einam Foolish, that you have a Lechi on both sides, so then it's enclosed on both sides. According to Rabbi Yehuda, that's considered to be a Reshus HaYachid. So if so, there's no special kula here for the Sefer Torah. According to Rabbi Yehuda, you should be allowed any Eichlin Amashkin. Ella, the Gemara brings the final pshat here, Omer Rav Ashi. So Rav Ashi said, the difference between a mavi mefulish and a mavi she'enim mefulish is as follows. Shalish mechitzais, if you have three, if it's enclosed from three sides, v'lechi echad, and at the fourth opening you have one lechi, zeh mavi she'enim mefulish. That's a mavi that's not mefulish because it has one lechi at the opening, and therefore That was the opinion of the Chachamim that you're allowed to bring in the Sefer Torah there. Gimel mechitzis, beloy lechi, when you have 3 mechitzis and there's no lechi there at all, zeo mavoi mefulish. That's considered to be a mavoi which is mefulish when it has no lechi on the 4th opening, on the 4th side. Now the chiddush over here is, even according to Rabbi Eliezer, the Amma that said, ba'inan lechim, Rabbi Eliezer says that usually to close up a mavo, you have to have 2 lechis, hanimili loichlin o mashkin. To be allowed to carry out food from the house that's on fire, you have to close it up completely. You have to have 2 lechis for that. Aval, the Sefer Torah, what the Tanakama in our Mishnah is saying is that for a Sefer Torah, b'chad lechisagi. Closing it up with 1 lechi, which is usually not sufficient, but for a Sefer Torah, 1 lechi is good enough, and you can bring it into it, according to the Tanakama, and according to Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, even without any lechi, you're allowed to save the Sefer Torah on Shabbos into it, because it's still a place that minat Torah you're allowed to carry there. Why? No, it's considered to be mefulish if it's open from one side. The word mefulish, according to this pshat, doesn't mean through and through. Could be usually the word mefulish means through and through. The Gemara is satisfied. The question of the Gemara before regarding mefulish kares lahu was when it has 1 lechi. But now we're saying it's mefulish because on the 4th side it has nothing. It's completely open.
But you could have answered something. The Gemara could have answered.
That what?
According to Rambam also.
Could be. Okay, let's go weiter. Let's continue the next Mishnah. Zok the Mishnah, now we go on to different things to be able to save from the fire. Matzilin mazon gimel sudes, you're allowed to save the food for the need of the 3 sudas of Shabbos. Haroi la'adam, the food that you need for the person, for the 3 sudas, la'adam, you can save for the person. Haroi la'behema, the food that you have to feed for the animal. You could also save on Shabbos la'behema, whatever you need for the animal. Keitzat. So, but how does this apply? Naflat leika b'leilei Shabbos. If the fire breaks out Friday night before you ate your suda, matzilin mazon gimel sudas. So then you can save enough food for all 3 sudas that you didn't eat yet. B'shachris. If the fire broke out in the morning, matzilin mazon beis sudas. You already ate the Friday night sudas, so you could only save for 2 sudas. B'mincha, if the fire broke out in the afternoon before you ate the 3rd suda, mazon suda acha. So then you could only save for 1 suda. Rav Yesi argues and says, no, doesn't make a difference. Chachamim will kevei the amount, l'oila matzilin mazon shalish sudas. Chachamim will kevei this amount that on Shabbos you always are allowed to save what you need for 3 sudas, regardless of what part of the day on Shabbos it is, as the Gemara will explain. Rav Yesi holds it makes no difference. Zok the Gemara. So let's see what's going on over here. B'chlal, this whole entire concept that you're only allowed to save a certain amount of food. Why? So as Rashi explains in the Mishnah and over here in the Gemara as well, we're not talking about a person taking out the food into the Rishus HaRabim, where he's doing a malacha. He's taking it out into a chatzar, and even into a chatzar that has an eiduv. It's totally, he's doing something which is completely mutter. There's no problem even with the Rabbanan either. So why isn't he allowed to save anything he wants? Mechdi be'teire katarach. What he's doing here is totally mutter. Natzil tfei. Let's allow him to take out whatever he wants. Amar Rava, so here's the basis of everything that we learn here in this Pedic. So Rava says, Mitoich she'adam bahol al memainai. If you allow a person to save whatever he wants, so because a person is very, very concerned about his money, or the word bahol, how do I touch bahol? Bahol means like the person is in turmoil. He's like, he loses his mind when you allow him to go and save everything when his house is on fire. If you're going to allow him to save whatever he wants, he's going to come to extinguish the fire. So this is a gzeira of Chazal that a person shouldn't come to do the malach of mechabet to extinguish the fire. Amalei Abaye. So now Abaye brings a different example where we see Chachamim placed limitations where l'chayre there's no concern of a person coming to do a malacha. Ela Tanya. We learned in Abraisa, Nishbroi lechavis beroish gaga. A person has a barrel of wine that he stores on his roof, and there's a hole, and the wine is coming out. So what is he allowed to do to save that wine? Mevi Keli, he can bring 1 vessel, umaniach tachtea, to place under it, that the wine that drips down should fall into this vessel. He shouldn't bring a 2nd vessel, v'yikloit, to catch this wine, keli acher, or to bring another vessel, v'yitzaref, and place it there right by the roof that it should drip directly into this keli. You're not allowed to bring more. You can bring 1 to place down in the courtyard and the wine drips down. You're allowed to bring that to save it, but more you're not allowed to bring to save. Why not? Why aren't you allowed to save anymore? Hasam, my gzeire. What gzeire is there? What problem is there with bringing a vessel to save this wine? Why shouldn't they allow you to bring more? Answers the Gemara, there's a gzeire there as well. Hachanami, gzeire sheme yavi keli derech reshus harabim. If you allow a person to bring one vessel, another vessel, a few vessels, he might run into the reshus harabim and bring a vessel from there. That's why Chachamim didn't allow this. Guf, now let's see this price itself about this subject. Your barrel of wine broke on top of your roof. Maybe keli maniach. You could bring one keli to save this wine. You're not allowed to bring a second one to catch it in the air, or keli acher, or another one v'yitzaref to bring it right by the roof where the wine is dripping, to put another keli there. Now the Mishnah says, the Bryce actually says, if you have more guests, so then maybe keli yacher, the kailit. Then they allowed you to be able to serve the guest this wine. They allowed you to bring another keli to save the wine. Keli yacher and mitzaref, and to bring another keli to put by the roof to catch the wine. But v'loy yikloit, you're not allowed to bring another keli to save this wine, and v'achakach yazmin. And then you say to yourself, oh, I'm allowed to do this because I'm planning on inviting guests. You're going to invite guests later. If you have guests invited before, you're allowed to bring more kelim to save it. But you're not allowed to do this and then invite the guests later. Eli yazmin v'achakach yikloit. First you have to invite the guests. If you have guests, then you're allowed to bring more kelim to save the wine. Ve'ein marimim bekach. You're not allowed to do harama. A person is not allowed to make a trick, to play a trick that he invites guests before, and he doesn't have guests, and then he saves the wine. If a person has guests, then he's allowed to save the wine. But if he doesn't have guests in advance, he's not allowed to do this. Mishum Rabbi Yosef bar Yehuda Amru. Rabbi Yosef bar Yehuda says, no, marimin. Over here, a person has a financial loss of his wine, so a person is allowed to do the harama. He's allowed to invite guests, or he's going to invite guests later, and he's saving it for the purpose of the guests. He's allowed to do this.
Rashi says that they don't need to eat. They don't need to eat.
Yeah, he's sort of inviting guests, but it's really right, exactly. But he doesn't even read them for the guests, exactly. That what? If marimin, if you're allowed
if you're allowed to play games about it.
Yeah, okay, I hear you. So the Gemara brings another example where you find this machlekes of harama. Is a person allowed to play a trick like this? Find the same machlekes between Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Eliezer. The Tanya we learned in the Braisa as follows. You have an animal, a cow, for example, with a baby. They both fell into a pit together. Now, what's the halacha of Oisev as B'nai? They're not allowed to be shechted both on the same day. There's a ism in HaTorah. Oisev as B'nai la yishchatu b'yayim echad. On Yontif, we're talking here about on Yontif. A person is allowed to shecht on Yontif, but you can't shecht both of them on Yontif. So now they both fell into a pit, and you want to take them out. So what do? Rabbi Eliezer says, you're allowed to take out the first one to shecht it and to eat on Yontif. Because you're taking it out for the purpose of shechting it, you're allowed. But for Hasheni, the second one, you're not allowed to take out because you're not allowed to shecht it. So what do? So you're allowed to feed it, you're allowed to bring food to feed it in the place inside the pit where it is until the end of Yantif. You could feed it that it shouldn't die. Rabbi Yeshua says, no, you can play a trick. Take out the first animal with the intention to shecht it, to eat on Yom Tif. And then you decide, I don't like this animal. I don't want this animal. You don't shecht it. And then and then you're playing a trick. You bring up the second one, and then and then you look at the second animal and you say, actually the first animal is better. And then you can shecht whichever one you want. So a person is allowed to do this harama. So we see that the concept of harama was already argued about between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua. Same thing over here, when you get to saving the wine of a barrel that broke. So the Gemara says, no, mimai, how do you know that you compare this? It's not the same thing. Dilme atkan lekom Rabbi Eliezer hosam. Over there, Rabbi Eliezer says that you're not allowed to save both animals. They have should be parnasa. Because you can feed the animal. The animal's not going to die. Feed it in the pit. Over here, the wine is going to get lost. You want to save your wine. That doesn't apply. Or we could say the other way around. Rabbi Yeshua over there that said that you're not allowed to save it. You leave an animal in the pit for such a long time, it's going to be tzar balachayim. The leket tzar balachayim, over here there's no tzar balachayim. That doesn't apply. Maybe over here you're allowed to you're not allowed to save the wine. So therefore, we can't compare the two cases. No, the Tzar Balachaim. Oh, okay, no, that's not. It's a Tzar Balachaim. It's the financial loss. It's a different thing. Okay, we'll stop over here for today. It's late.